Bob Lutz, Jeff Lutz.
You liked him before, so he's back with more.
The Drive on KFH.
Long, long time ago, I can still remember.
All right, we are back. I think you probably heard that one before, American Pie. We're pleased to be joined now by Don McLean, the author of this song as well as so many others in a long and distinguished, storied career, really. Don McLean, thank you for being on our show today.
Well, thanks for having me. Look forward to coming there.
Yeah, we're pleased. You'll be in Kansas City at the Crossroads on September 8th, and that's one of the best outdoor music venues in the Midwest, and I'm sure you'll have a good time.
We have a great band. I don't know if I'm just going to brag on them for a minute. We've got two great electric guitar players. They're all from Nashville, as well as the keyboards, drums, and bass, and, of course, me. And it's loud when it wants to be, and it's also quiet, too. So we do this all over the world, and I love to play outdoors, so I'm looking forward to this.
Well, I'm sure that you'll have a big crowd to see you. I wanted to ask you, Don, of course, Glenn Campbell passed away after a battle with Alzheimer's disease today. He was 81, and I was making the comment to some of the guys here, Jack Oliver and my son Jeff, who they do the show here, that there are some similarities in your sound with Glenn Campbell. Was he somebody that you ran across in your career?
Well, I did. Glenn Campbell, a couple of funny things happened. A few years ago, we did a big festival together in Ireland and hung out for a while, and we talked about the time when we first met, which was in the early 1980s. Over in England, he would do tours of England because of his Scottish ancestry. He would play the bagpipes, and he did a lot of different things. And he had a great following over there. And he was alone in his suite at this hotel. I was at the hotel. I was alone, too. And he said, why don't you come up and visit? Because he was waiting for his wife to come with their baby. And this was, whoever that was a big grown-up now. But I told him, that I thought, I liked his music a lot, but I thought his acting was great and True Grit. And we had the most fun because I know all the lines to the movie, so I would do the John Wayne part, and he would do the other part that he played. It was really a lot of fun.
Well, Don, when you're over in Europe, I was looking through some of your set lists that you have played in the past, and it really kind of looks like a different type of songs and music they enjoy in Europe during your shows than some of the things that you sing back here in the States. What's the difference with the audience?
There's really no difference, but I would say that I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, for example, Ireland is a very musical place. So I've done many, many tours of Ireland, and they love, artists and festivals and so on and so forth. But and there's a certain folk tradition which I think supports artists like myself as well as country artists and rock and roll artists like Dylan, let's say, who has a folk aspect to what he does. And they like melodies. So there's different reasons, but even those places that, have a strong musical tradition are being overcome by the internet and many of these, festivals. They used to have I think 120 traditional Irish music festivals. Now they've got 20 or 30. So it's, the young people just don't care that much about it. And so tradition, one of the things that it seems that the modern technology is doing is tossing out the old, for real. There's not even a attention paid to it that there usually used to be, in spite of the fact that there are many new things always coming along. That's very dangerous because you don't want to be addicted to modernism, because then you end up having to reinvent the wheel all the time. Only the new thing matters, and all of a sudden you realize the old stuff is very important, and this is why people, knock down beautiful buildings and they put some piece of crap up that they regret, and so on.
Talking with singer-songwriter Don McLean. Don, you've also been known to do Buddy Holly songs in concert, and of course we know his connection with American Pie. So I'm 34. How would you explain to people of my age and generation what it was like to be around when he was making music and just the force of personality that he was?
Well, if you lived in the 1950s, there was, after 1955, I would say, really throughout the 50s, because it kind of started with Johnny Ray. Once Sinatra went down the tubes for a few years, and Johnny Ray, who was almost an Elvis type of a guy, came along and excited people. And then, of course, Elvis came along, and then the airwaves and the radio airwaves were open because we had this huge young audience that was as a result of the end of the First World War. We had these young people who were about to become teenagers who were turned on by lots of different things, and they weren't just following what the old folks had done with orchestras and popular music. And a mistake that was made later is to toss popular music away. I never did. I always loved popular music, as did the Beatles. But you can't imagine what it was like to go from an orchestra world to a guitar world. And that's kind of really what happened. Suddenly, Buddy had these two guitars. He was basically, the Crickets and Buddy Holly were the band that, laid the groundwork for the Rolling Stones. That type of a band as the classical rock and roll band. And he created that. And then he wrote all these songs. He didn't record more than 50 or 60 songs, I guess, but everything he wrote was a hit. And so he wrote, and he was a singer-songwriter way before that was happening, because, of course, Elvis didn't write any songs. And so there was just, and then there were so many other people around too, and other groups, and Fats Domino, who was phenomenal, and many of the black singing groups that did these incredible versions of songs like Blue Moon, the Marcells, or the Flamingos. I Only Have Eyes for You, which is my favorite, almost my favorite song of the 1950s. It's a mystical piece of music. So much was going on. It was just radical, and yet it was fun, because the charts had everything on them. They didn't make rock and roll into a religion yet, like Rolling Stone kind of made it into a religion, and you had these purists, that came along. And everything was on the charts at the same time, folk music and Percy Faith and his orchestra, Sinatra, Elvis, Buddy Holly, it was all in the top 100.
Talking with Don McLean. He'll be at the Crossroads, Kansas City on September 8th. That's a Friday. We encourage you to go to their website and purchase tickets for that show. The song American Pie came out 46 years ago. I was 16 at the time. It had a huge impact on me and everybody I knew at the time. What was your reaction to that song when it was released versus your reaction to that song now, 46 years later?
Well, I was immediately way over my head in terms of dealing with the reaction that the song produced, and the expectations of what I was supposed to do, because I was a very I wouldn't say inward, but I'm a person that likes to think about stuff and work on things. And suddenly there was an element of pop stardom, where it's screaming girls and fainting girls and this kind of thing, which I didn't really know, how to handle, or what. Lots of guys were way better at this than I was. I'll tell you that. But I was just interested in my work and what I was doing, and I turned them on actually a little bit. But as I went along, I had to make an adjustment. A lot of young artists have to make adjustments and realize that it's a business. In the beginning, it was a dream and a fantasy, and it became a business, but you can't let the business kill the dream. So, you learn to realize there are certain rules, and, you have to hold up your end of the deal. You have to write the songs and make the albums and do the tours and so on, but you can't stop loving what you're doing, because now it's an obligation if you want to be in the business rather than just a dream that's happening to you. And if you can make that transition, then you can last 50 years like I have and enjoy it, which I have. I like people, and I like traveling, and I like hearing their stories, and I like, just doing what I do for the audience, whatever that is. I feel I try to add something to their lives.
Don, it's impossible, not to be moved by that song, American Pie. It's fun to sing. It's fun to listen to. It's fun to think about. It causes introspection. Did you set out to write an opus, something theatrical? What was, when you sat down just the first time you started writing that song, what was the end goal in mind?
Well, I was excited about the first part of the song, the long, long time ago part, which just came to me out of nowhere. And I write the lyric and the melody like at the same time. I just started singing the song as if it was written already. And I quick grabbed a paper and started writing down these lyrics. And then when I finished, I looked at it and I thought, whoa, what was that? And I sang it into a tape recorder, cassette tape, and pulled back from it because I realized it was something that I was looking for. I wanted a big song. And about America, and also a big song that all my other songs would lead to at the end of the show or 3/4 of the way through or whatever, dramatically speaking. And so I didn't want to rush it, and pulled back and thought about this. And then I came up with this idea of music and politics moving in parallel forward. I don't know why I thought of that, but I started thinking about the way politics were and the music that went with it through the years that I had lived since Buddy's death, and started to see this pattern that I decided I would play around with. And so that's what really motivated the song to get finished, because otherwise I don't think I would have known, what to do with it.
We're talking with Don McLean, and Don, the song American Pie probably made every disc jockey in the world happy, because we were playing records back then that were 2 minutes and 30 seconds, 3 minutes long. All of a sudden, you have a song that takes up both sides of a 45. Bob Dylan had that with Like a Rolling Stone. Then you come back and have one even longer, about 8.5 minutes long. What record promotion man was able to get that on the radio?
Well, they got it on the radio by selling the album. The only place you could hear the whole song was to buy the album, so that really sold albums like crazy. And they played the album cut on the radio, and then we put a 45 with half of it on one side and half of it on the other.
Well, I'm sorry, Don. I don't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, it's funny. It was funny that it turned out to be, you know, a song that people would sit still for all that time to listen to.
Well, before we let you go, and we appreciate your time very much, I did want to ask you what song of yours is, or it could be any song that you play in concert. What do you have the most fun with, and what's your favorite song that you wrote?
Well, I don't have a favorite, but lately I've been doing a couple of songs from the Primetime album, which I put out in the 1970s, and on that album there are two songs called The Wrong Thing to Do and When a Good Thing Goes Bad. And both of those songs were used by the songwriter Drake for a pretty big record that he had called Do It Wrong. So it drew a little attention to this album. And I talk about this in the show just a bit once in a while. But I sing the song Primetime, which was my idea. I had an idea that of America as a game show. And everything being, this is 1976 or so, and music becoming very mechanical. And everyone seeing the reality of America through the television rather than in real life. And so I've begun singing that song again. And the audiences are responding to it because, you know, obviously we are in the middle of something just like that right now.
Well, we appreciate this. It's I just posted on Twitter during this interview that what I'm doing right now is pretty surreal because I've admired your work for a long time, and we appreciate this. Again, Don McLean will be at Crossroads KC coming up Friday, September 8th. Tickets available. You can go to Don's website. That's don-mclean.com. Don, thank you, and best of luck on the tour that starts for you August 19th in Berkeley.
Well, thank you very much. And I've always loved coming out there. The audiences are great music audiences. And I wish everybody the best, good health, long life, and we'll give you a good night when you come out.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks again for your time. That's Don McLean.